where an initial trailer comes out, people react to it, and justly so, because that thing looked terrible. Hey, what's going on?
Hold on.
So, I mean, this never really happened before, but they actually pulled the whole
Hey, we got your right name up. Hey.
I'm vicious now? Sick.
Well, we know you're vicious, but yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Stevens joins us. You see her on, Cheddar Esports talking FGC stuff. You saw her at some of the Red Bull Conquest events, and you also see her as host of The Neutral. Thank you for joining us, Amanda.
I'm happy to be here. How's everybody doing?
I'm surviving somehow. I don't know how, but I'm doing.
That's the best Steve ever says he's doing, so that's a good thing. And I'm doing great, so thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. I'm ready to talk about some good-ass Tekken and also talk about Red Bull Conquest.
Let's start with Red Bull Conquest because, we talked to Vicious, who was at the Minneapolis qualifier. You were at the Seattle qualifier, right?
Oh, man, I was at Seattle, and then, of course, I also did Orlando, Philly, and Houston.
What has your experience been working with them this year?
So working with Red Bull is obviously a really cool opportunity. I've been a big fan of the Conquest Tour, or I should say the Red Bull Fighting Game Tour, because I also covered the Battleground Finals in Boston in 2017. I was in DC for the Conquest Finals, covering it out of my own pocket. That kind of led to me doing the Conquest Tour because they got used to seeing my face.
All right, awesome. What was your experience like specifically in Seattle? What did you think of what went down there?
So the interesting thing about the Seattle FGC is that you do have some really strong cats out there, but they're not travel experienced. So when they have to play people outside of the Pacific Northwest, they're not as strong, right? Unfortunately, this is a team filled with invaders, similar to one of my other teams, Orlando, where we have Squish representing Arizona. Well, representing Seattle by way of Arizona.
We went and got your cookies because all our cookies are gone.
Yeah, then we have Samurai, right, from NorCal for Street Fighter. The only Pacific Northwest person who's actually Seattle born and raised is their Tekken winner, Eddie Boy Mang, who, from what I understand, had a kid and took a pretty decent break from Tekken, and then sort of this year, which will eventually we can segue into dojo events, kind of came back to Tekken and has been sort of on a local tear, and should be really interesting to see him stack up versus a lot of these bigger Tekken names like Shadow and Trungi and Anakin when he heads over to the finals in Santa Monica.
Speaking of the finals, I've actually got a list of the players.
I have one too.
Just taking a look, Trungi, Mojo, and Spinach representing my city, even though, two of them are from Tennessee. That's cool, though. That's cool.
Yeah. So what I think is super interesting about the way that this all shook out is that for the most part, when you look at the winners for each region, you've got some people that are not only household names, but they're killing it on their respective tours, right? Anakin and Shadow are qualified right now for Tekken World Tour, if I'm not mistaken. You've got Punk, Samurai. You've got a decent chunk of the SFL and Street Fighter, and then you've got all the big Unis cats, right? You've got Trill and Red Blade and Squish. You've got Hotashi, the recent Guilty Gear player who's been sort of surprising everybody as how quickly and viciously he's learning Unis.
Do you have any picks? Who you think is going to win the final out of those? Just real quick.
I mean, so I was talking about this with Vicious earlier, and you guys to an extent. I honestly have to give it to LA. Demon, there was no Atlanta this year. That's why Team Orlando is 75% Atlanta, because Terrence and Anakin are obviously not from Florida. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to LA. Pinoy on a good day can beat most of the people in Street Fighter. Speed Kicks is obviously really good. Is obviously a really strong Tekken player, and then you have the best North American Unis player in Red Blade, who the other two best, right, in Squish and Trill, both say that on a good day they lose to Red Blade. So like when the point system is you win, you get a point, you lose, you get 0 points. You've got the guaranteed wins in the Red Blade column, and then Speed Kicks and Pinoy can upset pretty much everyone. So I'm gonna have to give it to the LA team. My dark horse team would probably be Seattle.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely have to see how that shakes out in a couple weeks. Week and a half, actually, is when finals are going down.
Yeah, 23rd through the 24th on twitch.tv/Red Bull, #Red Bull Conquest.
There you go.
Show.
Steve, did you have any more Red Bull Conquest questions?
I did not. I did have a Red Bull question, though.
Go for it.
Because kind of in the realm of Tekken, we did find out some news today.
Some guy named Arslan Ash got signed by Red Bull. Really risky pickup on Red Bull's part. I've heard that he's like washed up recently.
It's like a 5th place kind of finisher. I don't know what they're doing, but
yeah, this is a really awkward pickup. So what's really funny about the Arslan Ash pickup, right, is that like didn't he like tweeted it out months ago?
Yeah, he tweeted out like the Red Bull logo.
Months ago, he tweeted out the Red Bull logo with like a thinking emoji. And like I understand that it wasn't like a confirmed leak on his part, but like what else were we going to think, right? Like
he put it into reality, so it's happened. Congratulations to him. Sort of continuing the theme we've seen from all of these players coming out of Pakistan, and not just Pakistan, but other areas of the world.
So what I love about what Red Bull's doing, and I know this is like a sidebar to like all the Tekken talk that I'm supposed to be doing, is that I love that like Red Bull is basically saying like if you're a good player, we don't care what region you're from, we're gonna sign you. So we saw that with Big Bird. We're seeing that with Arslan Ash. We've seen that with the North American players that they've signed, like Anakin and Snake Eyes. They don't really care where you're from as long as like you're talented. You can put up the wins, but then you can also like represent the brand in like a positive fashion. And it's like a no-brainer to sign Arslan, right? With the year he's had. Like anyone, it's surprising that no other team has sort of taken a risk on like picking him up. But it's also like Pakistan U.S. visa problems are going to like stay a thing until we potentially change presidents. So I can understand why other places would be a little bit more hesitant to sort of add him to the roster.
sure.
And that's obviously you kind of touched on players not being able to travel as much because of reasons that are beyond the scope of fighting games.
Yeah.
One thing, and we talked about this a little bit in our pre-show talk. One thing that I feel has sort of contributed to lessening that, or at least lessening the impact of that on players, is this sort of the implementation of the dojo system in the Tekken.
Yeah. So the dojo system, and I'm glad that somebody clarified it to me because I had a misunderstanding. I thought you could only have like 100 dojo points. You can have up to 400 dojo points, right?
Yeah, if you win 4 of the biggest dojo events, which is tough to do. That's like 400 person brackets.
But like the cool thing about the dojo event is that like on the surface level, it was to get more people into competitive Tekken, right? And so that far and away was a big success, right? We saw how it influenced the early Red Bull Conquest events, right? In the number of entrants for Tekken when it was still a dojo event. We had to, obviously ixnay that because dojo events are open to everyone and Red Bull Conquest is only open to U.S. citizens. So issue, right? But like we are seeing that this dojo system has done a lot for the Tekken World Tour as far as like giving players some points that they probably wouldn't have had before. So it should be like it's really interesting that they for all the stuff that I gave the Tekken World Tour last year on Cheddar, prize structure, points, ability to sort of make it, right? if you weren't Korean, from the EU, or from the US. This year, they sort of have swept my expectations on like what their tour could look like. They still need to work on the price structure, but in all other areas, I think that they've vastly improved the Tekken War Tour.
That's so important right now with the way things are emerging with these tours. You're expecting there to be a bunch of bumps in the road when these guys are doing it kind of more or less for the first time. But to see improvements like that, we've seen improvements made on like the Capcom Pro Tour, and it continues to be a more and more refined event. But to see the jump that happened for the Tekken World Tour between just even last year and this year, the way people are talking about it, I like the Tekken scene just continues to excel in like every avenue it seems.
I think part of it is that you had a lot of pros at the end of the finals last year being like, I have to quit, right? Like I financially cannot do this if winning gets me $1,000, right? And that was like a very attractive thing. You had like Q-Dans and a bunch of other pros being like, this might be my last year. Like sponsorship money isn't that great. The prize pool is terrible. Like, I can't travel all around the world to make 1,400 points happen to not make any money.
Yeah.
So I think it was, I give a lot of props to Bamco. I also thank Harada-san for basically kind of taking over esports over at Bamco because they heard that loud and clear. And, you know, some game companies, they might have just said, you don't like it, don't play. But props to Bamco to basically say, nope, we hear you. If our top players are quitting, then what's the point of the tour? And they won 80. I mean, they still got a ways to go to make Tekken more sustainable for its pros, but it's in a great place right now. But we should keep moving because we still got to talk about patch changes and clinching spots.
Well, I wanted to ask about, not to sing Bandai's praises too loudly at the moment because, you know, coming more from the Street Fighter realm, I have felt the pains of having Akuma around quite a bit. And it sounds like in the last couple of weeks or so, you guys have as well. And so I wanted to ask about what's it like with Akuma? How's life right now? And has the most recent patch that just recently came out, doing as far as mending those kinds of wounds?
I'm going to be...
Yeah, sorry. Let me just throw this on the screen. Just going over the patch notes themselves, so everyone sees it. The big one, obviously, is going to be Akuma. His meter gain is decreased by 25% across the board. Minor changes for Dragunov, Negan, Shaheen. Couple buffs for Zafina. Doesn't seem like a major change outside of Akuma. I mean, do you even think it is a major change for you?
So, I'm going to be real. I don't see this being that big of a nerf. I mean, it's a nerf, right? But by the strictest definition, tools were taken away from Akuma and that his meter gain is decreased. I don't think there have been enough events for me to really say, like, oh man, the Akuma players are hurting. But on the surface level, I don't see this like affecting Akuma players at the very top level. I feel like this is one of those nerfs that is super, so I also cover League of Legends. We sometimes have nerfs that are for pro play, and then we have nerfs for everyone else, right? Yeah. And I feel like this is a really great nerf to get everyone to shut up about Akuma on online. But, like, I don't see Super Akuma, like, falling off a cliff because Akuma's meter gain is 25% less. I think one of the biggest problems with a character like Akuma is that he has a lot of good tools, and you really can't nerf characters that have just great tools without literally just deleting the tools out of their moveset. We see this when we have Rashid nerfs, and when we see, you know, nerfs to characters like Karen, that if you have a character that just has a lot of tools, it doesn't matter how you change the frame data, how you change the damage, how much health you give or take away. The tools are what makes the players great with them. And as long as they have those tools at their disposal, I don't see a world where Akuma just like falls off of a cliff unless you like maybe go as extreme as like we did in Street Fighter where we made him a very big glass cannon. Like maybe that's what's needed, where you just like give him next to no health and you're like, well, when you get hit like 5 times dead, so have fun with those tools. But otherwise, I just don't see a world with the tools that Akuma has to him and how unique he is to Tekken, I just don't see him, falling out of the tier list. Definitely not at the finals, and probably not in season 4 unless they make some drastic changes to the game in that time frame.
Do you think it's appropriate that there are changes happening right now at this stage in the game, on this stage of the season?
So I think if this patch was more extreme, I would be yelling from the rooftops at Bamco. We don't see this happen in a lot of other esports. For example, once again, like League of Legends, when they do a patch, they'll announce that a specific patch is like the playoffs patch or the worlds patch, and they might keep patching since then, but there's like a definitive patch that all the players know that this is the meta that they're going to be playing on for worlds. And that gives a lot of stability, right? Because you don't have to worry about the future patches. Here, you really can't do that with fighting games. You can't have like a tournament realm patch, right, for people to keep playing on. So I was really worried when I heard the announcement that there was going to be a patch like a week before DreamHack Atlanta, and then they rolled out this patch, and honestly, no character, I think, got any tools that's going to really shake things up. The top tier characters didn't take any hits. Like I said, I don't think the meter change is going to affect anybody but, the online hero Akumas. So I'm pretty okay with patches this late in the season if they're like this.
All right.
Fair enough.
Well, we get to see it in action this coming weekend with DreamHack Atlanta. Dojo events all throughout the world, including one in Atlanta that just went over, I want to say, over 100 entrants at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of DreamHack Atlanta, I know that during the pre-show you guys were talking about Rested Saint, but I don't want people to forget about John Ding, who's sitting at 515 points.
Yeah, let's actually take a look at those global standings one more time.
So like at 515 points, if he has a really strong run in Atlanta, he could clinch his way in, right? Like top 16 might push him in.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. He would need, let me pull up the thing. He would need to gain 25 points.
Which isn't impossible.
It's not. His low master event score is 25. He got 9th this past weekend. He got 9th at Combo Breaker. He got 9th at Rev Major. 9th at Tokyo Tekken Master. He's been nothing if not consistent.
I mean, that's how, in fairness, that's how people like Daigo sneak into like Capcom Pro Tours, right? Like every now and then Daigo just like hits the necessary point value that he needs to get into the Capcom Cup. So like John Ding can totally just, I don't want to say phone it in, but there's like a very strong chance that John Ding finishes 9th again.
9th actually doesn't help him because it's only the top 3. It's only the top 3 of results.
Oh, right. So
he has
John
to go
Ding,
like 5th, I think. 5th. Yeah, 4th won't be enough. He needs to get at least 4th.
So here's the good news for John Ding, right? He's in Atlanta where the UIU home base is, right? So doesn't have to stress too much. Is what if is like a pretty good peak condition place for him to be. I'm not writing him off, right? There are some people on that screen that you just showed me where I'm like, all right, I love you, but you're probably not getting there unless you like tear up the LCQ. I love Speed Kicks and Joey Fury. They're LCQ heroes at this point, right? Like they could make. I don't see them winning DreamHack Atlanta. So I don't see too much of the current lock-ins being shaken up, with the exception of John Ding probably maybe passing Rest or Saint. So that was like when you asked me to look at DreamHack Atlanta, and then I looked at point values. That was the only thing that I saw that was like pretty spicy and could happen. Of everyone's talking about, is it going to be Rest? Is it going to be Saint? And then John Ding comes in like 3rd at DreamHack Atlanta, and then we're asking Saint and Rest too.
All right, so who do you think he's going to get 3rd?
I mean, he hasn't looked super great this season. I mean, like you said, consistent 9 finishes, right? But I mean, let's not forget that like he is not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. and we've seen him clutch. We've seen him have very clutch performances in the past. So I'm not going to write him off, right? My favorite thing to do is like look at dark horses. I don't like doing the safe, vicious route where I talk about who's obviously going to get in. I'm going to go with the spicy take. And the spicy take is that, like, I can honestly see a world where Jean Ding finishes third or fourth and makes Rest, like, because Rest is going to a dojo event this weekend, right?
I believe so.
He's not going to DreamHack Atlanta.
No,
so, like, Rest has to win his event where John Ding has to I shouldn't say just come in fourth, right? There's a lot of killers. Like, that DreamHack Atlanta event is effectively the LCQ. But I can see a world where, like, Jean Ding finishes fourth and Rest doesn't hit the win he needs at the dojo event, and then, pushes Saint down one, Rest is out of qualification, and then we're talking about how can Rest, rally to win the LCQ. I can see that world. Maybe I'm a UYU show, and I like my Atlanta team, but it's not impossible, right? It's not improbable for Jean Ding to do it. Does it look a little rough considering the season he's had? Yeah, sure. Like, let's be honest. But, like, these guys are pro players for a reason, right? Like, their job is to come out and perform as best as they can. And I don't think Jean Ding on his best day can't come in fourth, right? Yeah. I think Jean Ding on his best day can win some of these events. So obviously on his best day right now, top four isn't beyond my stretch of the imagination. It's whether or not he's performing at his best. I don't think he's necessarily performed at his best this season.
All right. Well, this would be a great weekend for him to do it. Any final thoughts about DreamHack Atlanta before we let you go?
You're the math guy. Can anyone like Joey Fury or Speed Kicks like qualify off of winning? No, right?
Yeah,
they're like too far out.
They would have to do, because the current cutoff is 540. They're well within range where if they get a win, they can beat it. They can get in. But
okay, it's I forgot what the exact point values are.
It's 300 for winning, 220 for second. So they need like top three to get in there.
Yeah, so Speed Kicks is at 405 and Joey Fury's at 395.
Yeah, so you're looking.
So they could. Three. They'd have to top three. I'll have as much faith. Honestly,
you gotta be truthful. You gotta be truthful.
Honestly, if you told me to put money on Jean Ding coming in top four, I might have to like call my bookie and some stuff.
If it's legal in your state. If it's legal in
my state. I do have a quick question, because there's another player that like just needs to perform this weekend, and that's Kanan Trench, right? He's another guy who could squeak in with just a decent performance, but he's not going to DreamHack Atlanta. I don't know if there's any EU dojo events.
The problem is he can't gain enough points by just going to a dojo. He would have to go to DreamHack Atlanta.
Oh, so the Kanan Trench is just completely out of it. Got it.
Right. Cool. Unless registration is still open for another day. So maybe he makes the trip. Who knows?
Maybe he makes a YOLO flight. Like, I'm looking at sort of these like on the bubble needs to like top three people. I don't see anyone really making the cut. Like, I wanted to make the strong argument for Jean Ding just because like points, he needs less points than some of the other people to get there. But considering how many points some of the other people we would expect to do super well, like Book, Speed Kicks, Joey Fury, Q-Dance, Cherry Berry Mango, like they need to effectively win to break in. So as much as I want to see DreamHack Atlanta shake up the standings, just like points are not working in a lot of these players' favor.
All right. Well, that's all the time we've got for you. Thank you so much for coming on. I know it's been hell to get home after having your flight delayed, so we do really appreciate you coming on.
No problem. All right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yes, and be sure to follow her on Twitter. She's the host of The Neutral. She also she does writing. She does a lot of things in the FGC. Definitely check her out. Thank you, Amanda.
No problem. Peace.
All right. So, John.
Yes.
I really want